Okay, here's an overview from the stairwell, just to give you a little idea. Now, let's head down. Here's the train layout that Dad and his brother and their father built. In the 1930s, it is in its original location in the house. Not with the original trains or track, but anyway. Up on the wall, a selection of standard gauge Lionel trains. These were made in the 1920s to early 1930s and are all metal. Against the wall, hard to see, are some toys that were all Dad's and his brother's mostly. They are either cast iron or made out of stamped steel. These are all from the 20s and early 30s as well. There's an early 30s garage. Interestingly enough, the blue and the purple car, they're actually mine. As is this motorcyclist right there. Going back a little further, there is the Mark's garage, which is also mine, and the TootsieToy cars that are there are also mine. And as you can see, the collection goes all the way to the floor. Walking around, this is the layout with a variety of vintage items. In front of the layout is more items. On the top shelf is American Flyer from the 1920s. Below it is some extruded aluminum passenger cars from Lionel from the 1950s. Bottom two shelves are a variety of trucks, mostly steel, from the 1940s through the 60s. As we go along on this wall, top shelf is a Lionel set from about 1919, steel, of course. Below it is an Ives set from actually a transition piece. Lionel and American Flyer bought out their competitor Ives, and for a while were kind of making things under the Ives name. That's from the early 1930s. This red set is from the 1930s, as is this little freight set, low-end freight set. This is the Blue Comet. This was actually my mother's train set that she received as a Christmas present in 1938. Below it are Madison cars from the early post-war period. And below it is another one of my sets. This is the General that I got in 1965. And as you can see, it's been incorporated into the collection. Moving on, we have, again, early 1900s set of cars. This is Lionel from the mid-1930s. This is also from the mid-1930s, all steel. This is very early. This is about 1920, maybe 1919. Notice that it's all rubber stamped. This is American Flyer. O-gauge, they're all O-gauge, from the mid-1930s. And on top of the vintage radio, we have two sets from the early 20s. Moving on, another set from the early 1930s, a real signal light from a switch, or a real lamp from a train. Okay, late 1930s freight cars here, and here as well, and here as well. This is that little guy's from the 60s though. These are very early, 1920 perhaps. Lionel. This is a pull toy from the probably early 1910s. Moving on is a set from, these passenger sets are all from the mid to late 1930s, all metal, of course. This is a Stephen Gerrard set, I believe, and it is from the mid 1930s. This set underneath that is from about 1915, the same era of that. Of course, along with that, that wooden set, that's a Strombecker wooden toy train from about the late 1930s. This is another late Lionel standard gauge set from the 1930s, and another Strombecker train from about the same era, as is this little train, also Strombecker, also wood. It's another Lionel train from the late 1930s. Moving on, we have Bing, which was a very early train manufacturer. This would have been, they were actually a German manufacturer. So this is pre-war, pre-World War I set. Oh, this TootsieToy is mine. Reference books. Reference books. This is interesting. This is a souvenir for the 1939 World's Fair that Dad attended as a boy. And actually, along on this shelf is a collection of cast iron toys of approximately the same era, including this little set right here, which was the People Mover for the 1939 World's Fair. This souvenir is only sold at the fair, very rare. Dad has it, of course, and he got it as a boy. Buddy L cement mixer that he had as a kid. Century of Progress, 1933 truck, and then various cast iron pieces here. Over here is Overflow. That's a Strombecker wooden truck plane kit, and various cast iron vehicles. That is a Built-Rite cardboard building. They're very popular in the pre-war era, pre-World War II era. We have several. This is his collection of like scale stuff. TootsieToy ships, original with him. TootsieToy cars, all pre-war, as you can see. These are Barclay military figures, also pre-war, about 1930 or thereabouts. Interestingly enough, at that time they modeled all the uniforms after the World War I uniforms. So there's that. Okay, more assorted stuff. For a while, Dad was into HO. He modeled this Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Petersburg locomotive that ran on his HO layout in the house in Vienna, and also built that truck stop. That is more Lionel. This is standard gauge. You can see the difference in size between standard and HO. Then over here, there is more tonnage. This is all pre-World War II Lionel, as is that. This is not. That station press steel is Lionel. The one next to it is actually Marx, from about 1930 or thereabouts. More reference material and more stuff. These three vehicles here, interestingly enough, are from Russia. My mom worked for an agency that used Russian consultants, and they would bring back stuff for her. Did I ever get to play with them? No. On the wall is a transition piece, a transition ice piece. I think that's reproduction. But over there, that is an Erector set. That is the Erector Hudson, the biggest set that Erector ever made. It came out right before the Great Depression. Very rare, but Dad was lucky enough to get one. This is the sailboat that he sailed in the reflecting pool. Up here, castle with some more Barclay figures. The highly desirable Lionel Santa Fe passenger set from the mid-1950s. Below it is more post-war stuff. And this is pre-war, that brown train. As is, that's a standard gauge American Flyer set with the red. American Flyer as well, with the orange and then Lionel from about 1919 on the bottom. But wait, there's more. This is some more of my dad's modeling when he was into HO, except this is actually a Lionel set. Right before World War II, they came out with what they called 00, which was exactly half O gauge. Never really caught on, but there's a few examples available. This is, again, O gauge with TootsieToy cars and trucks. Back here, more standard gauge, American Flyer in the back, Lionel, the top two, of course, die-cast TootsieToy in the original box, which is fun. More back here. These are just assorted sets. This is an S-gauge set, which is what American Flyer used after World War II. That, I believe that's a Lionel set. That is a American Flyer O-gauge set and miscellaneous O-gauge. There's a scale set in there that got in there. And that's definitely mid-1960s military Lionel stuff in the back. This tether car is also mine. I'll get that back someday. This is just sort of like the storage area for the collection. So there's some stuff on display up here. There's that's an American Flyer passenger set, post-war. This is pre-war Lionel, about early 1920s. That is MPC era 1970. These are early post-war, as are these. This is a TootsieToy train from pre-war. There's some more Built-Rite. I told you that we had more. This is post-war. I mean, this is a MPC, 1970s and later. We have train sets in boxes, and all of these boxes, I assure you, are full. And then there's these over here. There's just, all of these are full. More stuff on display, more stuff stored away. These cars are sitting on a pre-war the 1920s set box for a train. There's a example of Hornby in that those maroon trains. That's from England. And there is more stuff up here. And then to finish up, we have some big steel pieces. This is actually mine. This is actually mine too, a crane, a working crane. That's mine, that's mine, these are not. There's Dad's original Ford that he had as a kid, lots of Barclay figures. Those three trucks are mine. More Built-Rite paper houses. The collection of TootsieToy, pre-war, which goes on and on. This is all Barclay. Lionel Streamliner from 1938. Another Lionel Streamliner 1930, 1937. Another one from about the same era. And there you have it. The basic part of Dad's collection.